Edwards on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/lsw/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. It's been a week off since my last late show with Teachers Talk Radio, and I'm so pleased to be back because this evening I've got two fantastic guests who I'm sure you'll enjoy their anecdotes in leadership and education because they join me all the way from the Atlantic. So I will be tuning in with Charles Williams and Michael McWilliams later in the show in about 10 minutes time. But I just wanted to tune in with everybody here. I just wanted to check that we're all well. We've all had a really nice half-term break. If you've been on half-term, what have you been getting up to? What did you get up to into your half-term? So please, we're going to start the opening bit of conversation just while everybody kind of files in to their headphones and switching on their apps and putting themselves on the website or tuning in to either Twitter or Facebook or wherever you're listening. Tell us a little bit about your half term and what you've been up to. So if you want to leave, of course, if you want to engage in the show, you can leave a message in the chat function. You can also call in, and we're always looking for people to join in and call into the studio and ask questions. And I'll be dialing in, taking calls from my guests later in a couple of minutes. So I'll be chatting with Charles and Michael. I'm going to talk all about their work in the States. And we're just going to have a conversation today about leadership, but leadership in a different country, finding out a little bit about education in a different part of the world. What are the similarities? What are the problems that we're all dealing with post-COVID? And what is it like to be teaching out in the States? And I'm very, very lucky to be joined by two principals over there. And I'll be tuning in with them in a couple of minutes. I know that they're calling at the moment. I'll be calling in, answering their calls in a couple of minutes to get them online. But most importantly, I just want to make sure that we've got plenty of listeners on the line. And if you do want to get in contact and get in conversation, you can always follow Teacher Talk Radio on Twitter. You can follow myself on Twitter as well, Dan Edwards _77. Follow me on Twitter if you'd like. And obviously, of course, you can listen back to thousands and thousands of shows now, backing up actually fantastic bumper loads of footage and lots of audio, a crossover on the Teachers Talk Radio website, and everything that you'll be able to find in there, and some fantastic guests of late. I know Kate Jones has had some fantastic guests, and we've got lots of new hosts coming on board. We've got lots of different shows taking place, so it's a really, really, really exciting time to be getting involved in Teachers Talk Radio, because it really is moving forward and hopefully being a huge part of the conversation across education, not only in this country, but further afield. So I'm really pleased to see people joining in the room. We've got plenty of people joining in online and tuning into the show, which is fantastic. But before we start, it's always important to tune in to the latest news. So I'm going to play the news now, and then I'll be coming back with a little bit more of introduction about my guests and hopefully a chance for you to call in and take part in today's conversation. So here's the news for you.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Megan Goods.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News. Recruitment levels for trainee teachers were missed for the 6th year running in the 2019-20 academic year. Following the last year, however, they are expected to increase, with the Welsh Government believing the pandemic has highlighted the importance of the profession. A government spokesman said, "Current trends suggest the pandemic has helped to highlight the vital role played by teachers, and more people are choosing to start teacher training." Senior Policy Officer for the NEU, Mary van den Heuvel, also said she believes lockdown has helped the image of the profession, but that it was too early to know the exact impact. In 2019 in Wales, only 465 secondary trainees enlisted of an allocated 1,006 spaces. The Labour Party has called the government's £1.4 billion catch-up plan inadequate. The Shadow Education Secretary, Kate Green, said she was shocked at how little the plan contained, describing it as a betrayal of our young people, and stated that Kevin Collins's resignation makes it clear that the government's education recovery plan is totally insufficient to help every child bounce back from the impacts of the pandemic. The Labour Party is seeking a U-turn on the policy, testing government backbenchers with an Opposition Day debate this Wednesday in the House of Commons. Gavin Williamson has urged families to ensure they complete COVID tests before returning to school following the May half-term holiday. More than 50 million lateral flow tests have been taken by students across England since January. Williamson said he was hugely grateful to the families, students, and all those working in education for their role in making it happen. Despite the continued testing regimes, concern is still mounting in schools surrounding the Delta variant, which is thought to have a 40% higher transmission rates than other COVID variants. That was your daily education news briefing.
So there we go. Lots of news there to obviously listen to and get our heads around. Obviously, we've got more news about COVID. We're hopefully moving out of the restrictions. Who knows? We're looking at this date of June the 21st. We've obviously got Kevin Collins' resignation there, which is a very interesting, obviously, revelation in regards to the world of catch-up. And of course, those retention levels for teachers is a very, very interesting picture, and something, you know, it's things like Teachers Talk Radio, developing the conversation, and hopefully celebrating the passion of educators and teachers across the world in order to make, you know, teaching and learning a better place and schools a better place. So I'm really, really pleased to make sure that we've got people in the studio. What have you been getting up to over half term? What did you do? I know that I spent many a time. I mean, let's face it, we were absolutely overwhelmed with sunshine, especially where I was. It has been a beautiful week. I spent a lot of time listening to Test Match Special, listening to the cricket. Unfortunately, over the last couple of weeks, over the last week, we saw England again, showing that our batting isn't that great. And obviously, as well, we've seen England as well get ready for the 2020 Euros. So, coupled with that, and lots of gardening and running, that's how I've been spending my half term. And it's been quite good, making sure that I've been recharged and restored and refreshed, and also a lot of reflection going on, ready for this half term. And of course, as well, myself and fellow Teachers Talk Radio host Kate Jones have been getting involved with Saturday Ed Chat, and it's great to see so many people coming across and joining that on Twitter, but also as well coming over on here and tuning into mine and Kate's shows, which is fantastic. So thank you very, very much indeed. It's been a real pleasure to have you with me over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And I know as well, we're really, really looking into making sure that we got more and more guests coming on and having a really, really fantastic time. So before I introduce my guest, Charles Williams, and I know that Michael McWilliams is coming a little bit later because they are coming to the tail end of their school day over in the States. I just want to remind people how you can get in contact. You can obviously leave a message in the Late Show chat box and share the show with on Twitter and on various social media. But also as well, most importantly, you can call into the show, which is really, really what this is all about. And we're always looking forward to having people call in, ask questions, and just have a conversation. So if anybody wants to call in now, tell me a little bit about their half term, what they've been up to, what you're looking forward to in this summer term, please do let me know. And I know that lots of people, especially obviously up and down the country in the UK, we've got these 5 weeks left where we can really, really, hopefully get things ready for the new academic year. But most importantly, you know, put to bed this what has been a really, really interesting academic year. And if we just go back to, you know, the start of this academic year in September, we weren't expecting to go into remote learning and all of those things that we've managed to collaboratively get together. So it's a really fantastic year to reflect on. It's not been without its challenges, but of course, it's a chance to really think about how we can move on and move forward for next academic year. And let's hope we can start the next academic year with a little bit more of the new normal. If there is anything as a new normal, maybe the new abnormal, who knows? But what we do know in education is the fact that it's always changing. So what is it that you've been doing over half term? Please let me know. Leave a message in the chat box or please call in. I'm always happy to listen to people have a chat. It's always nice to talk to people because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Collaboration. So please feel free to leave a message, get involved. Ralph William podcast we've got here has just shared the show, which is fantastic. So hello, Ralph William podcast. Talk us a little bit about your podcast. That's a very strange thing. My trailer seems to be cutting in and interrupting me, but nevertheless, we will plow on. So anyway, as we wait for my first guest to call in and start the conversation here this evening, Ralph, may you call in? Of course, yes, you can call in. Let's have you calling in. I'm going to invite you as a speaker, Ralph William podcast. Remember, we are live, as it were. So, Ralph Williams, are you there? I'm just going to invite my guest in, Charles Williams. But first of all, I'm going to come to Ralph Williams. Are you there, Ralph? Are you there? No. But Charles Williams, I see you have connected. Charles, are you?
I am here. Can you hear me okay, Dan?
Charles, a little bit of echo on the line, but nevertheless, Charles, welcome to Teachers Talk Radio, and welcome again. Another conversation that we are having, and I'm so pleased to have you on here. So how are you, and how is it this fine? Is it just gone 2 p.m. where you are?
Yeah. So it's just a little after 2. And it is very, very warm. So we're in the mid 80s, and I believe we're at about a 70% or so humidity. So it's hot and sticky. But I can hear my kids outside running around and having a blast. So, and it doesn't stop them.
Fantastic. So Charles, let's just give people a little bit of background. We first met, well, probably in November, wasn't it? Just before, well, actually, was it just in the new year where we were talking on a school rubric show about thinking about what the new year was going to present us? And we've kind of stayed connected there, and we've kind of managed to keep a bit of a transatlantic link going. So over the course of tonight, it'd be really great to hear your story in education, find out a little bit about your school, I know in Chicago, and also tell us a little bit more about your podcast Inside the Principal's Office, and find out all about the brilliant stuff that you and Mr. McWilliams are doing over there in the States. How does that sound for you? Is that okay?
That sounds like a plan. I appreciate it.
Oh, good. So, Charles, we're obviously going to be inviting people into call and maybe have a chat with you as we go round. But before I do that, can you just talk a little bit about how you got into where you are? What's your journey in education? Because we do like to kind of get a bit of context to everybody and find out a little bit about where it all started with you. What was your educational background like? How did you get into teaching? And then how have you moved into the leadership position that you're in?
So, I tell people, so first of all, I've been in education for a little over 15 years now. And, I think a lot of times they're waiting for this glorious story about how, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. And the truth is, I had no intentions on being in education. Originally, I did not go to school for it. Instead, I ended up kind of working with a school district in a complete different capacity. And they said, look, we need somebody to teach English. I said, well, that was my other major. I'll give it a shot. Let me see how it goes. And I absolutely fell in love with it. The kids were phenomenal. I had a blast working with them. And I said, you know what, this is it. This is what I want to do. And so, I went back to school, got a master's in teaching, and then realized, I said, no, I want to do more than that. Went back to school again, got another master's in educational administration. So that way I can move up the ranks and become an administrator. So, I served about 5 or 6 years or so as a teacher, 1 year as an AP, and it was a very short year. My principal ended up resigning and encouraged me to look for the principalship, which was not part of our plan, but it has worked out. I've now been a principal for what, 6, 7 years. I know the numbers aren't adding up there, so I don't remember all of the different things. But yeah, I've been working, in Chicago for the last 6 or 7 years as a principal, and it has been phenomenal. Just a tremendous journey. I have spent that entire time in what we consider urban education, and really because I wanted to work with a group of students that reflected who I was growing up in the groups of my peers. And really, the thing that drove me was I wanted to provide an educational experience that was different from what I had, right? I had a great educational experience, but I was that textbook kid, right? I did very, very well on tests. I did very well sitting there and listening to lectures. So that style of teaching that was dominant and still unfortunately is, aligned with my learning style. So yeah, of course, I did an amazing job. But I had peers, my brother, who struggled because they were not that type of learner. Not that they were stupid or not that they couldn't learn, but teaching was not being catered to them. And so I made a vow to create an educational experience that would be phenomenal for everyone. If you liked lectures, if you were more audio or visual, or a kinesthetic learner, whatever it may be, right, you were going to have that amazing educational experience. And so that is what has driven me. And recently, right, that has also stemmed over into a lot of equity work. So I've been doing a lot of work in this area, again, simply based on my own experiences in school. And so I've launched a foundation, a consulting company. I have my own podcast, the Counter Narrative Podcast. I am the co-host of Inside the Principal's Office. I'm like working on 2 different books at the same time. So just super, super busy, but it's just all a way, to continue contributing and adding value to the world of education. So
I
I
think
try
that's
to
fun.
wrap.
I think that's fantastic, Charles. And I know that when we've spoken before, you are very driven by education. Just for us over in the UK, I think we have some similarities, but just talk a little bit, because when we talk about terminology, you talk about your district and how it's kind of set up there, because obviously we work in our local authorities, so our cities, but when you talk about your district or superintendents, how does that figure into you being a principal, and what's the hierarchy? Is there a different hierarchy in the States in regards to those kinds of things?
Yeah, so I think it really depends on where you're at. So I live in Indiana, but I work in Chicago. And so Indiana is very much like, you have your school in your town, right? So you've got your levels of schools, primary, middle, high school. You have a superintendent, over the entire area or that town of schools, right? And then there are principals that lead each of the schools. And so I'm in Chicago, and Chicago is a massive, massive school district. And so we really don't have a superintendent. In fact, we have she is called a CEO, Dr. Janice Jackson, and she's actually leaving this year. We have, I mean, it's really like a business, right? We have a
Right.
CETO, a chief education officer. We have chief operation officer. So, they all have those business like acronyms, right? And then each so then the district is actually divided up into regions. And then so for each of those regions, you have what's called a network chief. So that network chief might be really responsible for a number of schools in their area, right? We have in Chicago over 30,000 students. Um, Actually, I think, I'm sorry, it was like about 400,000, somewhere in there.
Wow.
It was staff that are about 30,000. Um, so yeah, so you have a person who is over an entire kind of chunk of the city. And then within each of those schools, then you have a principal. So, I would answer to a network chief, and that network chief answers to, their person, and that person kind of like it trickled there's many, many layers between me and the top person here. Whereas in a regular school, right, like back home where I'm from, right? A lot of times the principals may directly interact with the superintendent, if not the assistant superintendent.
Right. So the size of wherever you are kind of, determines the structures that you're working within. And you have your the person that you answer to. Are they on the ground? Do they come in? Do they support you? Do they kind of, are they there kind of being a critical friend? Do you get the support from them, Charles, or is it something that they are distant and come in only occasionally?
Yeah, so it's interesting you ask. We're technically actually a charter school, which adds yet another layer. So the organization that manages the school, that essentially operates as the business office,
Yeah.
they're very hands-on, right? I'm in touch with my immediate supervisor almost daily. But it's when you get to the district, right, for the actual district school, it's here and there. It's usually when they need something like a report, right? Hey, we need like we have 8 more days of school, and I just had to submit stuff for an audit that is occurring next Wednesday, 2 days before our last day of school, and I'm like, really, we're doing this now? Oh, so I mean, they have no clue, and they just kind of pop in whenever they feel like it and do whatever. So that's a little annoying and frustrating.
Yeah, but they're there for you. Are they just out of interest, Charles? Are they financially are you financially accountable to them, or do you get to make your own decisions budgetary to support your curriculum and your kind of whole school strategy, or is the some kind of the purse strings held by them?
Yeah, so it's nice being a charter school in the fact that I have the autonomy to make many of the decisions about how we're going to use the money. In a district school, there's a lot of red tape, right? A lot of policy that you have to go through if you're going to modify your curriculum. I don't have to do that, but we're also financed vastly different. So whereas many of the district schools around me, have a surplus of money or access to a ton of programs, I don't. So I have to be very, very creative with how we're utilizing funding, in order just to make sure that ends are being met. But the nice thing about our management company, the company that kind of does our business for the school, because I've been with them now since 2012, they're like, look, we trust you, right? You
Yeah.
make the decisions that you need to do, like, and so it's really nice to be able to have that autonomy where I know a lot of my principal friends, right? If you want to spend money, you have to go through a lot of steps just to get something approved.
So we've just got a question in the chat, Charles, about from the Ralph William podcast. So it's just, I don't know if you can see the chat, but so who's in charge of the curriculum? Who kind of maps out the curriculum offer for the school? Is that yourself, or is that in connection with the people above? People above.
Yeah. So when we're working on, at least I take a very holistic approach. So when in fact, we were just revamping our ELA curriculum. So we sat down with students, we sat down with our teachers, our families, those who wanted to participate. The options are there, and we're able to do that. Right. The nice thing about that is that I don't necessarily have to go to the district and say, do you approve of this curriculum? Or like, is it one of the vendors, or do you have to vet this vendor? At least I can do that here. So we really make the school fit our population. And I saw that, Ralph, come in, and that's a great question. And I'm sorry if it came across that way. Like, I never ever make those decisions, those big decisions like that in isolation. I'm not the one in the classroom. I'm not the one delivering the instruction or the curriculum. So I really want to make sure that my teachers feel comfortable with it, that it's going to connect to my students. So the students get to look through the samples. I meet with my parents every 2 weeks. I make myself available to my parents so they can ask questions. They can just give me feedback. I want to know how things are going. And so, they get an opportunity as well to say, hey, like we saw the new curriculum. We like it. We don't like it. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why we've made many of the changes, simply because I make myself available to them every 2 weeks on a Thursday in the morning and in the evening. And I'm just like, guys, talk to me. What do you need? What's going well? What isn't going well? And that's just from experience. I will tell you that that is not the leader I used to be, right? When I first started.
Yeah.
But I've really gotten to the point, right? I need to know that you're okay with this, because again, you're the ones using it. You're the ones engaging with it. And so I want to make sure that you're happy with it.
And I think that's really important. We've spoken about leadership a number of times together, Charles, and that idea of, being transparent, being out there, being visible with the decision making. I think that's really important, isn't it? Now, you'll be pleased to know we've been joined by Michael McWilliams.
Hey, man.
He's here, and he's come in under a very strange pseudonym of DFWYZZ. Y7K. So he obviously, he came in incognito because he knows that if anybody knew he was in the room, it would all go crazy. So I'm going to introduce Michael, and I hope if we do have a bit of an echo, I apologize, but let's have a look. So Michael, are you with us? I'm unmuting you. Are you there?
I'm here. How are you?
Some nice sound.
Can you hear me?
I can. We've got a little bit of an echo.
Uh-oh. Well, I am glad to be here. I'm excited about being here. I am so sorry that I am tardy to the party, but I had a meeting at central office and had some things that I needed to visit about, but I'm glad I'm here.
Michael, just out of interest, have you got any headphones?
I do have headphones. Well, here, let me do this. Because I'm in my car.
Oh my God.
Let me take it off. Let me take it off of the system, and maybe if I just speak through my phone, that may be better.
How does that sound?
Oh, I apologize. That better?
Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, and I can't hear very much of myself back on your phone, which is brilliant. So welcome, Michael, and welcome, Charles, as well. You are together, the double act that I've become to know you. So welcome. So if anybody has just joined us, I'm joined by two great principals and two great educators from the States that I have been very, very lucky to have made connection with just at the start of this year. Well, just around Christmas last year, really, where we were able to share some time on a school rubrics panel. And Charles and Michael have been working very, very hard stateside on a range of projects with school rubrics, but also inside the principal's office, their webcast and online presence. And I'm just so pleased that you're able to join us, and I'm so pleased, Michael, that you are able to hear. So how are you? Because you are, I'm aware, ticking down like Charles to the end of your academic year. So how many days do you have left?
Kids got out on May the 27th, and I am still on contract. I had a great day in the building alone today, that big building by myself. And my last contract day is Thursday. So I'll also be starting my summer vacation on Thursday, and I am looking forward to that.
Wow. And I know listeners in the UK will be thinking, hang on a minute, we're still there till the 9th of July. So when do you actually, without kind of moving too quickly past your summer break, both of you, when does the new academic year start for you?
Well, I have a short vacation. I will return on, I believe, July 12th. And then the teachers who left on May 27th, the teachers will return on August the 3rd. Okay, so Michael, if you don't mind, we obviously, Charles started the show talking a little bit about his educational background, his journey to where he is now, because we do like to kind of get a bit of context with our guests. And once we've done that, what we'll do is we'll try and have a bit of a general conversation, and then hopefully take some calls from listeners and comments. And as we go through the next 45 minutes together. So Michael, where did it start with you? What was your educational background like? What were you like as a pupil, and how did you kind of get to the point where you are now, as a principal of a fantastic school, Savannah Elementary? So where did it all start for you? Okay, I'm going to be like, I don't know if you have the Golden Girls or if you watch the Golden Girls, Sophia, when she says, picture it, Sicily, 19 whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to start saying that. Pittrick, Lubbock, Texas, second grade, 19, whatever that was. My education, I cannot talk about my career in education without talking about my second grade year and talking about my sixth grade year. In my second grade year, I didn't start reading and becoming a fluent reader until I was in the second grade. And in the second grade, I had a teacher that wanted to refer me to special education. You know, she wanted to just send me off to the room, label me, put me on a track, and just really say that I didn't have the capacity to learn. Let's send him to special ed. At that time, there was no inclusionary services. It was just send him to special ed and let him be taken care of there. So I always struggled, even when I became a reader. I still struggled academically. In the sixth grade, I began to bud because of a sixth grade teacher, Thelma Brown, who just really inspired me and helped me see positive things inside of me, I realized that I do have potential to be a scholar, to read, and to be more than what even at that time I believed I could be. So in the sixth grade, I decided, hey, I want to touch the lives of other students. So, I said, I'm not going to be a teacher. In the sixth grade, I said, well, I'm going to be a principal. So that's where the journey started. In sixth grade, I decided that I wanted to be a principal, and I held that dream through high school, through college. When I graduated from with my bachelor's, I immediately started my master's program. I got both of those from the University of Texas system. I only taught for 4 years. I taught for 4 years. I became an assistant principal. I was an assistant principal for 2 years, and I spent the last 19 years in the principal seat. So I've been in school leadership for more than 2 decades, and I love the work that I do on a daily basis. I get to see the kids every single day, and I know that every decision that I make impacts the lives of young children. When I was in the classroom, I taught 3 sections of 30, so everything I did impacted 90 kids a day. At my present campus, we've had enrollment as high pre-pandemic. I think we were like 757 kids. And every decision I make impacts the learning, the student outcomes of 750 some odd kids. Plus, I'm responsible for adult learning. So I also make decisions that impact the learning of 70 staff members. So I'm just excited about the opportunity to serve others and to help others become the best version of themselves possible. Hey, Charles, I have to give a shout out to Charles.
Charles, are you there?
I put him to sleep.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Is he gone? But no, Mike, I think that's an amazing. Thank you very much for sharing that. And it's interesting, isn't it? How, you just said about your own educational background as a child was, very, very different. And do you feel that, from that experience that you had about people talking about special education, does that give you an insight into how you kind of look at pupils within your school as well, and looking at their potential and looking at actually beyond, these children a little bit more and giving them the opportunity to thrive? Because it definitely comes across like that.
Yeah, it most definitely shapes my worldview. And I won't let I won't let a parent give up on a kid, a staff member give up on a kid. I won't let a kid give up on themselves, because I was that kid that people wanted to give up on. And honestly, I was that kid that, because learning was hard for me, I wanted to give up on myself, but I found an advocate. I found someone that believed in me. And so I truly believe this. I believe that all kids can learn at high levels. Every kid can learn at high levels. And it is the responsibility of the adults in their lives to ensure that happens. And when I say all kids, high levels, I really mean all kids. I don't, sometimes we write those mission statements and we say, all kids can learn according to their potential. We give those things that will give the adults an out in case they don't learn. But I really and truly believe that when you have a group of committed individuals who have the courage to make a difference. I really believe that every kid in the building can learn in spite of anything that's in their lives that others may feel should hinder and serve as a barrier.
I think that's really, really powerful, because it is about all children. But on that, Michael, I mean, you know, as a school leader myself, it's a really bold statement to make. And, you know, while you've been at Savannah, have you had people who have, I mean, you must have had staff that didn't buy into that, and kind of, you know, did you have resistance, or is that something that just people just sort of went, yeah, I'm with this, I'm with Michael, I get it? Or did you have to change culture of your staff to kind of get that?
Yeah, we had to change the culture of our staff. Of course, we had those fundamentalists with that mindset that, you know, we say all, but every kid cannot. You know, we had people in our learning community that didn't necessarily believe that. And you know what I'll say? I am not going to tell you that 100% of the staff members actually believe that at this moment, but I will say that we have worked, and the majority of the people there are really believe, and they've seen the data that shows student outcomes increasing. So, you know, there's a way as a leader you can set systems in place that, you know, if you truly believe in our mission, great, we're doing great things for kids. But if you're here and you still have, you know, some doubts, and you really don't believe that a certain set of kids can learn, the systems that we've put in place, we've organized ourselves where you don't necessarily have to believe it, but if you use these systems, you know what I'm saying? There's a way that we're going to monitor what's being done for kids so that they get the best instruction possible, if you believe it or not. You know, it's great if you have passion on this journey, but if you're here and you don't have that passion, and you've not fully adopted that mentality, the way we track progress, we're going to make sure that kids learn regardless.
I think that's fantastic, and I'm really pleased for both of you to be joining me. What I'm going to suggest is, Charles, I'd love for you and Michael to come in together and have a little talk to us a little bit about Inside the Principal's Office, because I know that's really developing. That's your kind of online podcast, webcast. It'd be great to talk about that and find out a little bit more about the relationship that you've developed as leaders, because you've been working really closely together. And I'd be interested to see how that kind of came about, how that started. And obviously as well, what we try to do at the end of each show, probably around 9:15, I want to find out who are the inspirational teachers in your educational background. So Michael, I know you've already touched upon that person who was very special in your journey, but Charles, I'd love to come to you and find out later in the show who it was that really triggered off your love of learning, or your inspiration in regards to teaching and learning and wanting to be in the classroom. So we're always happy to take calls and always happy to take messages from anybody who wants to come in. It's really, really nice to see people joining in and tuning in. And of course, you can listen to this show back at a later date. You can download the podcast, but also as well, you can tune in not only on the Podbean app, but also through Teachers Talk Radio, the website, on Twitter, on Facebook. I think we're live across YouTube as well. So that's fantastic. So Michael, talk to us a little bit about your colleague in arms, Charles Williams, and talk to us a little bit about this Inside the Principal's podcast, because I've been listening in, I've been looking at some of the work that you're doing, and you know, your Facebook. So talk to us about how you and Charles started working together, and where is this duo of dynamite developing? Where is this going? Because I think there's going to be a lot of fun here, and you've already, you know, had an impact on me and the work that you two are doing together. So how did it all come about? Where did you and Charles meet? And you know, where's the Inside the Principal's Office going? Because it does look very exciting, and I would advise anybody who's just heard that to get onto Facebook, have a look for Inside the Principal's Office. You can look at it on Twitter and on Facebook as well. So, Michael, fill in the gaps. Where did you and Charles kind of realize that you were, kindred spirits, as it were, of education?
Well, I will say this about Charles. Charles is a brilliant mind, and he has such a way of communicating with others. He just draws you in with his stories and the rhythm of his voice. He's just amazing. So it is great that we are on this journey together. It all started, like you said, last year. I guess it was in December when it was supposed to be like a one-time inside the principal's office panel, and you were there, myself, Charles, and Lee was there from Dubai, and that's really how it started with that initial conversation that we had. And School Rubric approached us about making it more consistent. So we do broadcast at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the first and third Saturday of the month on all of School Rubric's social media platforms. So if you're a YouTube lover, we're there. Twitter, we're there. Facebook, we're there. You will be able to see, even Instagram, you will be able to see there's a School Rubric account. But inside the principal's office, we really wanted to transcend to be more than just a show, more than just, people peeking in and listening. Our hope is to really build a community, and that is where we're going. I've been a school leader for 21 years, and I've made a lot of mistakes. In 21 years, and I wish I had people to talk through things, to share my thoughts about leadership and about school, about curriculum. And so that is what we're trying to build. We're trying to build a safe place for administrators. There are a lot of schools that in America doesn't even have an assistant principal. A lot of times it is the principal, secretarial staff, and then teachers. So it can be a very lonely position, but our hope is to create a community of learners, of leaders that will connect with each other, that will learn from each other, that will be a resource. So you'll see the show. You can go on Facebook and you can join the group inside the principal's office. And, we have those major dialogues twice a month, but we have dialogues all throughout the month about things that relate to our jobs as leaders of learning.
Yeah, and I would recommend anybody to kind of tune in and go over to those channels, because there's some really fantastic content. Now, lots of you talk there about leading being a lonely job, Michael. I know that lots of us are reaching out. Do you see, for someone who's obviously been a principal for many years, do you see this as where you want to progress, or like most of us in leadership, is this something that you feel that as a leader you have an obligation to do?
Say that question one more time.
So some people might say, well, this is additional work to school leadership. Is this about moving away from sort of school leadership, or do you see this as actually a wider part of your role as a school leader of looking at ways in which we can develop dialogue with educators worldwide and developing the conversation further?
Yeah, I believe this. I believe one of the most powerful things that we have in public education is sometimes the most neglected thing, and that is the power of collaboration. The power of collaboration. And as I require my teachers to plan collaboratively to ensure that they have common vocabulary and that they've broken and unpacked learning standards so everyone has an understanding to provide that equity for every student in the building. I believe that principals need to have access to that same level of collaboration. So I see this as an extension of the work. I call myself the learning leader. I am a leader of learning. So every day I go in my building, I am the administrator and I administrate, but I am also a learner. So just as teachers learn from each other, this community is necessary for me to be effective for my teachers. I need a professional learning community. I need someone to bounce ideas off of. I need someone to share their perspective. I need someone to talk to me about, talk to me about their understanding of things that we are supposed to do in leadership, so that together we can come up with the best possible system. So, I've been here 21 years. The work that we're doing with leaders is most definitely not an attempt to move away from it. It is an attempt to equip myself and then to help equip others. 21 years down the line, I believe that I have some life lessons. They don't have to make the mistakes I made. Let me talk to you about how I did that and how it was a silly mistake, so that you don't have to do it. Because at the end of the day, all of our goal is student outcomes. So if I can help a leader find a better way of doing something, and it impacts 600 kids in their campus, it's about student learning at the end of the day.
No, I think you're completely right, and I think a lot of people who are going out there on social media and are really kind of, I suppose, elevating their platform and elevating their profile across social media for developing, like you say, opportunities for collaboration through Facebook, through Twitter. I'm thinking really creatively about it. It is about, isn't it? It's developing networks for ourselves, because as you said, you're quite right. 21 years into the job, it can be a lonely position. You do need to start, and like you said, we're always continually learning, and we need to, as leaders, don't we, develop those networks where we can feed and to give and to give back. So I think it's a really fantastic thing. And I'm just wondering if Charles can come in. I don't know if Charles is on mute a little bit, but Charles, are you still there with us?
I'm still here. Can you hear me, Dan?
Yeah, lovely. Yeah. So what's it been like working with Michael on this since the conception of Inside the Principal's Office? Because I'd love to get, how you kind of develop your ideas together. What is it like to work with another leader in a different kind of part of the States, as it were? Because there's obviously a lot of learning to be had over in the United Kingdom about how we can collaborate and maybe develop, opportunities that you've done. So what's it been like working with Michael? And when did you realize that yourself and Michael had something that had that, you had that connectivity between you?
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin with this, Deepa. I mean,
and Michael, you're always Michael. Feel free to interrupt if he goes wrong and says the wrong thing.
I will. I'm the.
I know that.
No,
it started now. Yeah. So Charles, talk to us about Michael. What is it that when you're working together, what do you get from each other as leaders? And that special kinship, because what's the distance between you?
Yeah, so Mac is obvious. So he's down in Texas. So I am up in Chicago. So I don't know the exact distance. I'll know when I'm flying down to Dallas.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the Dallas event.
You're going to talk about the live show as well. Yeah, the live show.
Yeah. And so just out of curiosity, I don't know if she is in this space, Laura. I just got an alert that Laura was joining Inside the Principal's Office. So if you're in this space, thank you for joining the group. But I will say this, is that it has been tremendous working with Mac. He brings with him a plethora of experience. And so, I feel like when I'm talking to him that I am consistently learning, that I am growing, but it also doesn't feel like it's lecture. Like Mac has a tremendous way of being able to deliver ideas and lessons and experience without throwing it in your face. Like, I've been doing this forever, and you're doing it wrong, and this is how you should. Like, it's just a very graceful way of being able to say, here's my experience, and allowing me to learn and grow in that. And that has been phenomenal. And so I'm looking forward to our continued collaboration and working together. And you know what? Something you said earlier is this idea that, we're not experts, right? We've created this space, and we are facilitators of conversation. And we say this every show, right? The idea is that we are learning and growing together. So as much as our listeners are learning, as much as our guests are learning, we too are learning. In fact, Mac has his little black book that
Yes.
he fills up every episode, right? And that we want people to know that we're not coming into the space pretending to be like the sages, right, and the gatekeepers of wisdom and knowledge, but instead it's how can we grow and learn together in a space that normally does not exist for educational leaders, right? There's many of these spaces for teachers in other areas, levels, but for educational leaders, this level really does not exist. And so we wanted to do something different, and we gave it a shot, and it is really taking off. And we said, you know what? We're creating something here. And as Max said earlier, this is more than just, a twice a month show. We have a space where people can drop in and share highlights or ask a question or, just get feedback, whatever it may be. And so it's really a community of leaders. And what's beautiful about the spaces that we're in now, this probably would not have happened. And if it did, it would have been on a much smaller scale. But I would never have been able to connect with an educational leader out of Denton, Texas, right? Being all the way up here in Chicago, like that just would not have happened. We may have crossed paths at a conference somewhere, and then it's like, all right, awesome. I'll call you once in a while. But the social media has made it available where I don't have to just create a PLC within my district, within my school. Like I can connect with leaders from all over. Like, so, right, Dan, I mean, you are across an ocean from us, and yet we're still able to connect. And so it is very powerful. And Max said this earlier, this idea of collaboration. If you are not collaborating, that is on you, right? There is no excuse anymore. And so what we're trying to do is to create a space where that collaboration can occur, and so everybody can learn and grow together. And so to go back to your question, I've only been working with Mac, even though it may feel like we've known each other forever. It's only been about 6,
Yeah.
7 months now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm looking forward because we have some tremendous things lined up of where we plan on taking this organization. I won't even say show, where we're taking this organization and just kind of where we're going from this.
I think it's really exciting, and again, you're so right in regards to just developing this sense of collaboration, and it's refreshing, isn't it, to have two principals being present, saying we're not the experts, but let's just develop this conversation and move things forward. So I really appreciate your honesty, and again, it's that authenticity we talk about so much of leaders, and making sure that actually we're transparent. We don't profess to be anything we're not. So we've obviously got a number of people joining us online and on various channels. So if you do want to pose a question to both Charles and Michael, either about education in the States, their kind of personal journey in regards to education, we'd love to obviously take a few calls. That'd be fantastic. If you do just want to leave a message in the chat box below, please feel free. And obviously as well, just remember that you're listening to Teachers Talk Radio, and this is the late show at 8 o'clock till 9:30 UK time. And if I'm looking at my watch, it's coming up to what, 10 to 4? Am I right? 10 to 4, 10 to 3? What time is it over there?
Almost 3.
Almost 3.
Yeah.
So just want to recap a little bit and come back to this year that we've all kind of faced with obviously the pandemic, and as I'm sure one of the things that again we've spoken about together about the similarities with things we've been facing, but we're in the UK, we're just coming through obviously the challenge of the last 18 months. How's it been like? What's it been like where you are, and what are the challenges that you've had to, come across? And with obviously with only a matter of days to go for summer break for both of you. I hope that's right. Charles, are you on summer break soon?
Yeah, I'll be on break in about 2 weeks.
So just reflecting a little bit about the year that's gone, what have your learning points been about you and your role and the pupils you serve, and also what are the things that you're desperately hoping for the next academic year? What are you hoping that's changed? What are the things that you hope to get back to normal? If everything goes well. So, Charles, I'll come to you. What have your learning points been of this year and the challenges, and what are you looking forward to in the next academic year?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's important to understand is that, first, right, things are vastly different depending on where you are in the country. Mac is down in Texas, I'm up here in Chicago, and so even our experiences were vastly different because, right, every state has their own approaches. There's the separation of the governments, and so those experiences were drastically different. We had spent most of the year in a remote setting. It was only until the very, very end that we allowed students to come back in. And we only have a handful of students. Most of our families have opted to remain in a remote setting. And, it's interesting because we still don't have an answer as to where we are going to be going next year. We wish, right, that an answer would have been made, a decision would have been made, I should say, but we still don't know. There's an assumption that Chicago is highly political, so there's an assumption that we're going to end up in a hybrid model because there are many residents who do not feel like we are ready to come back, whereas others are pushing for their students to be in the building. So the easiest way to do that is by making everybody happy and saying, all right, well, if you want to stay home, right? If you want to come in, come in. But so if that is the case, the one thing that I really hope is in place is that there are more structures around what hybrid looks like as far as students and parent accountability. Many of our students, we did have some students, I won't discount it, who had done a phenomenal job, right? They were able to shine in that setting, and it was great for them to be able to do so because under normal circumstances they didn't. But there was also a large number of students who just kind of fell off the board, right? They disappeared. They used this time to go do other things. And unfortunately, over the last 2 years, the decision has been made in my district that all students were being promoted to the next grade, regardless of performance. And so next year, right, to give an idea, we are potentially going to have, say, a student in 3rd grade who did not finish kindergarten, who may not have shown up at all for 1st grade, and is now going into 2nd grade. My apologies. So we may have a 2nd grader who essentially is starting school. And so that's really, really scary. And so we're hoping that there's some guidance and some supports put into place or that we are allowed to do in order to best support our students. And so super hoping that those things are in place. But I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mac, I mean, Texas is a vastly different place. And so they were like masks off well before we were. So Mac, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, in our schools, we have had masks, and we had masks all year long. As of June 1st, the kids were out. Now masks are now optional for all staff members that are returning. This year was one that was very challenging, and I think that I'll be honest, because I am kind of have a sense of humor sometimes, but I don't say this funny. This year feels like like a burrito. You know how you just put a lot of stuff. I don't know what y'all call burritos in the UK or if you eat those, but it's flour tortilla.
We do.
You just pile stuff in. You just pile beans, meat, cheese, lettuce, tomato. I feel like that's what this year felt like. It feels like about 3 or 4 years just rolled up into, and we called it one. But I am tired. Teachers are tired because of all of the challenges from the school year. I was able to organize my campus where we had some teachers that were only doing online learning, and then I had teachers that only did face-to-face learning. But for the first few weeks of the school year, we had teachers that were teaching kids live and had kids on the computer. We were able to make sure that that's not how they spent their year, but a lot of the teachers here in my district, that was their school year. You may have 14 kids in your class and you may have 6 that's learning online.
Yeah.
And best practice, that's challenging because best practice for kids face to face is different than what best practice would be when you have kids online. So that was the biggest challenge. And I will say that it took a lot of time, planning, took a lot of extra hours. And, so then that brings up another issue. And that is, just staff fatigue and staff SEL. We talk about social emotional learning for kids, but when you have adult learners in your building, if you're being a true PLC and collaborating, you're looking at your practices and you're refining them and you're being reflective and you're learning from patterns that you identify. So for the adult learner, they're just exhausted. I mean, we all feel like we've just had a burrito year. I mean, it's like 2 or 3 just all wrapped up into one.
I'm very interested because I know in the UK, we decided that come Christmas, January, we closed our schools and we all went remote. And then we all came back on the 8th of March and children were back in schools and back to face-to-face learning. And there wasn't an option. There wasn't an option of remote, staying online or being in schools. Charles, I mean, was that similar to both of you? Was there an option for children to just, I'm not coming in, I'm going to stay on remote learning and that's it? Was that the same for both of you, or was it just you, Charles?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know definitely for me, families had to respond to surveys and things like that. And once you went into a remote, you were not permitted to like kind of bounce back and forth like you would if you model. At any point, you could always opt out and go into remote. You were not allowed to come back. And so, we've had families who, opted into the hybrid and just kind of used it as a flexible thing, right? I'll come in once or twice a week and then I'll operate from at home the other days. And, so that was interesting. But yeah, all of our families, all of them had a choice on which one they were going to do. And so right now, I mean, like I said, school ends in 2 weeks. And they're asking what next year is going to look like. And so I know CPS has sent out a survey. And so we're waiting to see, will they have a choice school year, or will everybody be required to be in?
So in that hybrid model, could parents can parents choose or have chosen? Does that need it to be the same days every week, or could you see a child come in on a Monday and a Wednesday, and then the following week they decide to come in on a Tuesday and a Thursday?
Yeah, so that was supposed to be the same days every week.
Right.
So if it was a pod like a Monday, Tuesday, or a Thursday, we actually, because our numbers were so low, we just had the same group here Monday through Thursday. But very few of our students actually showed up every week, Monday through Thursday. Like you said, I might come in on a Monday and a Wednesday, and then the next week I'm here on Tuesday, and then the next week I'm there Wednesday and Thursday. And it's like, no, I need you here like every day. You can't just kind of show up, as Max said, right? If I'm a teacher and I'm trying to run my classroom in-house and I'm running this classroom online, it really throws me off when, one day you're here, one day you're online. You can't plan very well. And I think, as we've talked about, it's super important to take the perspective of our educators, our teachers. It's really easy to sit back in an office and make decisions about what you think should be done. But, I try to step into my teacher's shoes and I'm like, I don't understand, how you guys are doing this, the fact that we're still doing it. And like Max said, people are just tired. They're burnt out. And so it'll be a curiosity for, I heard the news earlier, when you were sharing it, like, just a shortage of teachers, and we were already experiencing that. And I'm like, if you keep pushing, that shortage is just going to become worse and worse and worse, because nobody wants to be taken advantage of.
Yeah. And we've asked of staff, so many things. We've really tried to, and probably like you as well. It's been a year where, as a leader, I've stood there and gone, I don't think I could have done this as a teacher. I seriously, applaud every member of the teaching profession. From teaching assistants to to teachers and newly qualified teachers, to have got through what everybody has got through. And again, not just in the UK, but it's been the same across the globe. And it sounds, in some respects, gentlemen, that actually the hybrid model that you've had to deal with children not having that continuity or kind of being allowed to have that flexibility has been quite a challenge. And again, very different to what we've experienced over in the UK. So, it's been a tough year. It's been a burrito year, as Michael has so eloquently put. But aside from guidance, which I think we're all craving for, we're all looking to think about what, for us in the UK, what late August is going to look like. What are the classrooms going to look like? What's the offer going to be? If it could all go back to normal tomorrow, what are the things that you just can't wait to have going on back in your school? So, Michael, what about you? What's that thing you just go, we've really missed this, and you know what, I just can't wait for it to come back?
I miss having parents in my building. We did not allow visitors in our building. Our buildings are secured. After the bell rings, they are automatically locked, computerized. There's a bell on our front porch, and people ring. And when we answer on the phone, there's a visual. We can see the camera, and they say, "Hey, I'm here for XYZ." They show us they show their ID, and then they stand there. We get the kids and we bring the kid out to them, have them sign them out on a clipboard. And no visitors have set foot in our building beyond the foyer. So just to be able to have partners, I believe in the power of, again, collaboration and building a true community. And most definitely parents are a critical part of that community. So I miss having parents as partners. They partnered with us in non-traditional ways this year. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that there's their appreciation for the work that teachers and staff members do. That's just like through the roof. But I am looking forward to having them in the building and doing those things that we're accustomed to having them do, reading with kids, and doing all kinds of things to support our work. So that's what I look forward to most.
It's crazy, isn't it? You talk about there about just other adults being in your school community, volunteering to read with children. I know one of the things that I'm missing, and again, it's one of the wonderful things of being a school principal, is those celebration assemblies that we have, where we get all of the children into the hall on a Friday morning, and we celebrate the learning of children. We sing, we have prizes, we have parents in celebrating, and we haven't done that as a school community since February 2020. And it just seems bizarre that I'm saying that date, but it's those small, in what you think of just incidental moments in your school day, an assembly, parents coming in, but actually we've just missed it, haven't we? And it's what makes a school a school. You've got the learning, but it's those moments of just community that just bring everybody together, that actually it's what it's all about. What about you, Charles? I mean, there must be, what are the things that you're just looking forward to having restart or to go again when you hopefully get to a point where you've got that clarity of guidance? What is it you've missed? What is it your staff are just going, oh, you know what, I can't wait till we do this again, or I'm really looking forward to when we can do this again for the first time?
Yeah, so I want to echo everything that the two of you have said, right? Having our people in the building, family, community members, right? We believe in that village, right? So having those in the building, the celebrations is something that we used to go big on, and just, I mean, every morning, for example, we started our day off, all of us together, the entire school, staff, students, everybody together in the same space. I would say my good mornings to them. We would share announcements. We would celebrate birthdays. Every day we started with that energy, and right, we haven't been able to do it. And so really looking forward to that. But I think to add to this conversation, one of the things, so we used to do something called the final Friday. So the last Friday of every month, we all went out as a staff. We would find a local establishment. We would go and we would have drinks and food and hang out and just really bond together, outside of work, right? No work talk, no, like, we're not here in the building. It's not PD. It is just us hanging out and celebrating one another. And same thing, right? We haven't been able to do that forever. But Chicago is opening up this Friday. So in a few more days, it is going to phase 5. Depending on how people feel about it, but my entire staff, just about, we're all vaccinated. It was one of my big pushes to make sure that, my staff was ready to go for my students. And time on the last day of school, we're going to do it again. We are going to go out as a staff. We're going to find a place. And in fact, we already have it picked out. We're going to be on the patio and just really enjoy one another. And who knows, we might have to order some burritos to celebrate the year.
Oh yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's just lovely to hear, isn't it? And it's just like you say, those simple things of just being together. Right. And actually, I can again share the fact is, I think that because of the size of our building, sometimes we haven't been together as a whole staff, as a community, because of social distancing, or we're trying to reduce the kind of capacity of people being in the same room together. And to have a whole staff meeting, or just to be together, is so, everybody's just longing for that, and it's wonderful to feel that as a team, and I'm sure you're experiencing this as well, that it just shows you the strength of that team that you're creating. Is the fact is that people are just wanting to be back together again, and I think that's really exciting. And I know that Mac has a black notebook that he writes ideas down, and I have just written down Final Friday on my collection of tatty post-it notes at the side of my desk, because I really like that Final Friday. So before we move on to the final bit, where we talk about your kind of the inspirational people within your sort of educational journey, we've talked a little bit about the things we long for. What are the things that you wouldn't change that have come from positives out of this situation? So for example, one of the big things for us is that we've had virtual parents evenings, which has given opportunity for parents to meet online and to chat with staff. We've reduced people waiting around in corridors. That parents evening where you're late or you're running over, we've been able to really utilize technology to connect with parents evening. And we've just had someone comment, so this is definitely someone from the UK. Scott, thank you. Love virtual parents evening. I think it's a big thumbs up in the UK. So we will obviously keep that, because it's been really positive for both our parents and our teachers. What one thing have you learned about your schools, or something that you've had to do because of the COVID situation, and actually you've gone, oh, this is better. This is better. So Michael, what about you in your school? What are the things that you just went, actually, we're doing this better because of COVID, and actually it's going to stay like this?
Well, I actually echo what you say. Just where our campus is geographically located, a lot of times when we had IEP meetings for students to develop individual education meetings, we would have parents, that may work downtown Dallas. You may have to take a half day off to drive into an IEP meeting that may last 45 minutes, a long IEP meeting, an hour and 15. So I I think that that is a service that we are doing for parents that I think needs to continue. I think that we streamlined a lot of things and we cut the fat on a lot of things. And we really got down to the let's make the main thing. And that is something that we will continue. I'll say this. We in this year, we created what is called the Savannah Collective Commitments. We've always had values, but we kind of went deeper. Instead of having values like attitude, innovation, we created a list of collective commitments. And that was with student outcomes in mind. What are the essential teacher actions and behaviors that every staff member can commit to doing in excellence every single day? We identified those and we let everyone know that you have grace for everything else. You have pre-forgiveness for everything else. But when you come in this building, these are the things, because these are the things that are most closely aligned to student learning. These are the things that you have to focus on every single day. And as administrators, our team, we pledge to clear the path and to keep all those extra things off of teachers' backs. And that has to continue. You know, when things get back normal, I think that there were some things that we had teachers doing that they could better use their time. They could impact kids greater. So I don't think that we will be putting those things back on them. I think that we will continue to refine those teacher actions and give support to teachers in those areas.
Yeah, and I think, I can echo the same. It is about, you've just stripped things back. You just get back to, like you say, the core purpose of what you're trying to do. And I like that. Those commitments, those things that you will all commit to do. And I also like that pre-forgiveness. There's going to be things that you can, we'll let go. We can be fine. But those things that you're committed to. Charles, what about you? What are the things in your school that you've decided that actually this is a keeper? This is a COVID keeper. This is something we'll be keeping.
Yeah, so since you guys have taken, all of the answers, so one of the things that I really enjoyed was this idea that, teachers have gotten into the habit now, they're recording their lessons, right? And so, which is really, really nice when a student misses, right? They're able to now access the learning that they missed, right? The other side of that has been really, really powerful, and something that I've been using with them is that how do we utilize that, right? Going back and watching your own lessons. And so we've utilized that a lot in the feedback and the observations, and to say, okay, like let's take a look at this, right? Not just with me, but with their peers, and letting their peers watch them and provide feedback again so they can learn and grow from one another. And while that's really, really easy when you're doing everything online, like with Google and things like that, that is something that I really want us to be able to continue to use. Not only that students can have access to learning, and it's not just like, oh yeah, well, we did this assignment yesterday, go kind of do it on your own, but they get to relive that experience. I think that's one of the biggest things, is just that flexibility that has come out of this. So many times we used to say, no, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. Like whether it's the parent meetings or whatever it may be. And suddenly we didn't have the option, right? We had to. And so that is one of my biggest things, of being able to say, how can we deliver content and information and communication to our parents, to our families, to our stakeholders in meaningful ways, right? And really going back to one of my good friends, Tara, we got to meet them where they're at. And so we've really gotten creative on figuring out ways to do that and making sure that everybody has access. And so those are those things, right? That's what I want to make sure that we hold on to. We developed an app because of COVID that is going to be phenomenal. So we're going to now utilize this thing, and, just like you mentioned, the parent meetings, just being able to connect with us. So that is I think my biggest takeaway on this is, how do we meet people where they're at and providing absolute access for all of our stakeholders to the school and vice versa.
Yeah, I think and I think you're completely right. And I think, like you both put so well, that we've really had to think very differently about what we do and think about our staff and what we can do to maximize their well-being and their support for our pupils. So that's fantastic. So I'm so grateful that you've taken up some of your afternoon to join me this evening, both of you. I'm really grateful, and I'm so pleased that we connected back 6 or 7 months ago, because I just think it's been great to have a dialogue with you both, and also to see how things have been going where you are in the world. So I'm really thankful for your connection, and also as well, I'm really thankful for you to taking the time today. But what I'd like to do, and what we do with all guests, is to just spend the last 10 minutes just talk. We're all teachers, and we've all had that one teacher in our lives which has just shown us the way. And I know, Michael, you touched upon a member of staff that supported you and gave you that agency to move forward. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to give us a little bit more information about that. But Charles, who is that standout professional in your educational journey that just basically, turned the light on about education, and someone who just was that inspirational educator in your life?
So, Dan, I love this question. And the person I always talk about for this question was not a formal educator, but somebody who loved education, somebody who was a huge educational advocate. And that was my grandmother. She was in school in the 30s, and so the idea of what a woman should have been learning and what she wanted to learn were vastly different. And so she dropped out of school and just kind of taught herself. But she was a huge advocate for my educational experience. And in fact, growing up, she was the one who was always telling me, "You're going to be in education." And I kept telling Nanny, no, there's no way. And I mean, when I ended up becoming a teacher, she was kind of like, "See?" And so she really paved that for me. And one of those areas, like I talked about at the very beginning of this, was that why didn't she receive an educational experience that encouraged her to pursue what she wanted to pursue, right? She was fascinated with the sciences, but as a woman back in the 30s and 40s, it was like, no, that's not you. You're going to do the domesticated classes, which she had no desire doing. And so she really instilled in me this love of education and not taking no for an answer. When it came to trying to learn, if you were passionate about something, if I wanted to know something, if I wasn't provided that opportunity in school, that didn't mean that I didn't get to do it. It just meant go find another way. And so it really created the child that I was, my educational experience, and has really helped me to shape the educational experience that I'm now trying to curate for my staff and my students. So not an official educator, but definitely an educator in other ways.
Fantastic. What a great story. Michael, over to you. You touched upon this very special person that kind of saw your potential and gave you that opportunity. Do you just talk us a little bit about that person again and give us a little bit more detail?
That person is Thelma Brown. She's about 80. Ooh, I may get in trouble. I mean, I don't need to say how old she is. She's over 80. She looks amazing. She lives in Dallas. We are Facebook friends. We talk and communicate. I think the last time I reached out to her was on her birthday. She was just amazing. She is the teacher that saw you for the person that you were, but she could see you at your worst, but yet believe the best about you. See you making the worst decision, seeing you have the worst struggles academically, but looking at you with the ability to see the best in you, all that you could be. And then she made an investment in her students. And at this point, I look back and you think that you were just the teacher's pet, but she had a way of doing that for all of her kids. She looked at you as a person. She believed the best about you. I can remember one story that sticks out in my mind is I can remember one time There was a young lady in class. She needed shoes. Her grandfather went to the shoe store and brought back some combat boots. And this little girl cried because, of course, all the kids in class made fun of her. She cried and cried and cried. I won't say her name. I'll call her Nicole. It wasn't Nicole. The names have been changed to protect her identity. But Miss Brown, I can remember her giving us things to do and getting someone to cover her classroom. And she left school and went to the store and bought shoes that were appropriate for Nicole to wear. She brought them back, and just the drastic change that occurred in that child. You know, as an adult, I recognize that she wasn't going to learn anything that day, walking around in shorts and combat boots. And Miss Brown knew that. And so for that one child in her room, she made the adjustment and the investment to ensure that learning took place. And so she did that with all of us. She just created a space that was safe to take risk. She was a teacher that would call you in the summer. You know, I will get phone calls in the summer. What are you doing this summer, Mac Williams? And her thing was, I need you to be busy. I need you to be doing stuff. And her statement was, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. An idle mind is the devil's workshop. You know, if you don't busy yourself, you're going to get into something that you don't need to be in. So that's what makes her so special, was that she's that teacher that when you ask her, what do you teach? She wouldn't say reading. I teach math. I teach 6th grade. She would say, I teach children. And she did teach us. She taught us how to be brilliant and how to be independent.
Wow. What a great person. What a wonderful story. The whole thing about those, that's quite moving. What a lovely point to end tonight's show on. You know, we've spoken a lot about our roles as leaders, but again, just reflecting on the people that we can be for the pupils and children we serve. And Thelma Brown, we've all got a lesson to learn from there. So thank you, Mac, for sharing that. And obviously as well, Charles, your grandmother, and, you know, making sure that we have those high expectations that we go back to for the pupils that we serve. It's our conversation has come full circle. So I really, really, again, appreciate you joining me, and thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. I'm sure there's going to be lots of other people inspired by your presence on social media and finding out more about what you do. So Charles, do you want to go first? Where can people find you to get in contact, to find out what you do, to find out, you know, about your work? Where's the best place to find you on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. But then before I share, I would love to, I know we touched on it, and so I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. For any of the listeners that happen to be in the Dallas area.
Let's do this.
Great, because I had a note to do the same thing.
Let's do this now, right? Okay, let's just pause a little bit and now recognize that we're going to talk about Inside the Principal's live event. Am I right, gentlemen?
Yes.
Let's do this. Yes. Okay, go for it.
What I want to say is this, right? If you're in the Dallas area, or even if you're not, I mean, we encourage you to travel down. It will be more than worth your investment, as Mac was just talking about, investing not just in your students and your staff, but investing in yourself, so that way you can invest in them. So in Dallas, at the end of July, we are going to have a networking event at the end of July on the 30th. Followed by a day of learning and growing on the 31st. And I want to make clear, this is not your traditional workshop. It is not a sit and get. It is not just going to be a lecture. It is me and Mac again, facilitating an opportunity for leaders to come together and to grow together. Again, this is not a sage on the stage. This is going to be fun, interactive, plenty of giveaways, a phenomenal experience for only $35. And I don't think that you can beat that. And so again, if you're in the Dallas area at the end of July, the very last weekend of July, please make sure that you stop on by. But in order to gain access, make sure you register. And so, of course, as we said earlier, you could find us on all of our social media spaces, the school rubric, you could find us there. Or to come over to what I was talking about earlier, or Dan asked me about, you can follow me on my social media. And the best place to do that is on Twitter, on Instagram, at _CW Consulting. I am all over Twitter. So feel free to come and connect with me there or in any of the other spaces that you may find me. I would love to connect. And so if you're interested in learning more, connect with me there, and I would definitely get you the registration link. So thank you, Dan, for allowing us to talk about it. And I'm sure Mac is going to talk a little bit more.
Go on then, Mac. Where can
That's
people
my
find?
cue.
Go on, this is your cue.
I have to talk about more. I have to talk about it more. I mean, every leader, this is a Macism. You cannot be afraid to be in the room with people smarter than you. And with all the magnitude of the things that we have to do as leaders, at some point in that room, you will be the smartest. There are points in the day where you will identify, oh, that's my data girl right there. And when I have data questions and how to disaggregate and how to create plans, that's who I'm going to. We're going to be in the room together. You will be the smartest. There'll be people in other topics that others are the smartest, and we are going to create a plan of work for the year. There will be a product that you will leave with. There will be connections that you will leave with that will empower you to be the best version of you. It is going to take your leadership to the next level, and we are going to support you. Again, we're not a one and done. We are building a community. So we're offering and extending an opportunity to, connect on the 30th and the 31st of July, but we want to extend the dialogue beyond that. $35 for all you're going to get. You're going to get a Texas barbecue lunch. You're going to get breakfast. You're going to get all kinds of things in your registration pack. It's just going to be a great day, and it's going to be something that you've not experienced. You will walk away saying, wow, I have never been to a leadership anything, summit, workshop. I've not attended anything like that. To reach me on social media, of course, we have the Inside the Principal's Office Facebook group. We would love to have you join that. I am on Twitter, and on Twitter, I am at McWilliamsMike1, and you will see a lot of my work at Savannah Elementary, and also a lot of work that I am going to be doing with Solution Tree. You will see that there. Also, you can visit my website. I have a website, and it is thelearningleader.live. Go to thelearningleader.live. We do some events, mentoring, and just informational things for up and coming school leaders and for sitting principals. It's just kind of an extension of just my desire to help impact leaders.
Fantastic. And I think between you, I think you've definitely sold the event. And I think, Mac, you just edged ahead in regards to selling your social media a little bit more than Charles. But nevertheless, well done to both of you. And thank you so much for joining me. We are at the end of the show, and I'm so delighted that we've spent the time. We've managed to have a conversation again. So really, gentlemen, thank you so much. I wish you a very, very happy and I'm sure very welcome summer break in a couple of days' time, and Charles in 2 weeks. And I'm sure, I'll keep my fingers crossed for you to get your celebration events, your parents back in your building. And I'm sure, no doubt, we will connect over the next few weeks and months again. But all the very best, gentlemen. And thank you so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure. And it's good to hear your voices all over again from so far away. So take care, and we'll speak soon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. So that's been The Late Show with me, Dan Edwards, on Teachers Talk Radio, and I'm going to count down now to the end of the show. So whatever you're doing, take care, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good night, everybody.